It was raining in London, as it so often did, but Her Royal Highness Princess Josephine of Glencorra found no poetry in the weather. She sat ramrod straight in her gilded chair as her father paced before the fireplace, his boots clicking against the marble floor of the palace drawing-room with metronomic precision. "It is decided, then," King William declared, pausing to warm his hands at the fire. "You shall marry Prince Vincent of Ivyshire." Josephine's stomach tightened. "I've never even met the man, father." "What of it?" "I had never met your mother before our wedding day." The king's eye softened momentarily at the mention of his late wife. "The alliance with Ivyshire will strengthen our borders and our trade agreements. Their naval power combined with our agricultural resources will make both kingdoms formidable." "And what of love?" Josephine asked, though she already knew his answer. The king scoffed. "Love is a luxury royalty cannot afford, my dear. You may grow to love him in time, as I did your mother. But duty must come first." Josephine turned to gaze out the rain-streaked window. At 23, she had harbored hopes of marrying for affection, despite her royal status. The small kingdom of Glencorra, nestled between larger European powers, had managed to maintain its independence through careful diplomacy that now required her sacrifice. "When am I to meet this prince?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. "He arrives in a fortnight. The engagement will be announced at Lady Thornfield's summer ball, and the wedding will take place before harvest." "So soon?" Josephine nodded, the perfect picture of royal compliance, while her mind raced with thoughts of escape that she knew would never materialize. A princess did not run. A princess did her duty. "Yes, father," she said. Prince Vincent of Ivyshire slouched in his carriage as it rumbled along the countryside toward Glencorra's capital. His valet, Mr. Harrington, sat opposite him, meticulously pressing a cravat with a portable iron. "You might show a touch more enthusiasm, Your Highness," Harrington remarked. "You are to meet your future bride." Vincent sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "A bride chosen for political expedience, not compatibility. For all I know, she could be dull as dishwater or sharp as a viper. The reports from our ambassadors suggest Princess Josephine is both accomplished and beautiful. Reports can be misleading. Besides, I had hoped to marry for Vincent stopped himself. For love, sir." Harrington supplied, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Most unprincely of you." "For mutual respect and intellectual compatibility, at the very least," Vincent amended, though love had indeed been the word on the tip of his tongue. "This arrangement makes me feel like a prized stallion being traded for a mare of good breeding." Harrington handed him the freshly pressed cravat. "Then perhaps you should endeavor to be the finest stallion in all the land, sir." "The princess likely feels similarly constrained." Vincent took the cravat with a grudging nod. His friend and servant had a point. He had been raised to rule Ivyshire since birth, a small but wealthy maritime kingdom with a formidable navy. This marriage would secure vital resources for his people and protection for the farmers of Glencorra. Personal feelings were irrelevant. Still, as the carriage crested a hill and the gleaming spires of Glencorra's palace came into view, Vincent found himself hoping against hope that Princess Josephine might be someone he could not merely tolerate, but genuinely admire. Lady Thornfield's ballroom glittered with candles and jewels as the cream of society gathered to witness the royal engagement announcement. Josephine stood near her father, smiling politely at well-wishers while her stomach twisted with anxiety. "He's quite handsome, your prince," whispered her lady's companion, Miss Eleanor Grantham. "Half the ladies here are green with envy." Josephine glanced across the room where Prince Vincent stood conversing with several noblemen. She had to admit Eleanor was right. Tall and broad-shouldered, with intelligent dark eyes and a strong jaw, he cut an impressive figure in his formal attire. Their introduction earlier that day had been stiff but civil. He had kissed her hand with perfect courtesy, complimented her kingdom's beauty, and made appropriate small talk about the weather and their journey. What he had not done was look at her with any particular interest or warmth. Their marriage would be a cold business arrangement, just as her father had said. Ladies and gentlemen, the king's voice boomed across the ballroom. It gives me great pleasure to announce the betrothal of my daughter, Princess Josephine, to His Royal Highness, Prince Vincent of Ivyshire. Applause erupted as Vincent made his way to Josephine's side. He offered his arm, which she took with practiced grace, and they stepped forward to acknowledge the crowd. "Shall we dance, Your Highness?" he asked, his deep voice barely audible above the orchestra striking up a waltz. "Of course, Your Highness," she replied with equal formality. As they took their positions, Vincent's hand at her waist was properly placed but impersonal. They moved with synchronized precision, both trained in the art of dance since childhood. "I trust you find the arrangement satisfactory," he asked as they turned. "The arrangements were not mine to make, sir, but I accept them as my duty," Josephine answered truthfully. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, at her candor. Refreshingly honest. "I had expected diplomatic platitudes. Would you prefer I lie to you before we've even exchanged vows?" A corner of his mouth lifted. "No, I value honesty. But tell me, if the choice had been yours, what would you have preferred in a husband?" Josephine considered for a moment. "Someone who sees me as more than a political pawn. Someone who values ideas over status and character over wealth." She met his gaze directly. "And you, sir? What would you prefer in a wife?" Vincent's steps faltered almost imperceptibly. "Similar qualities, I suppose. Intelligence. Sincerity. The courage to speak her mind, even to a prince." For the first time, Josephine felt a flicker of interest. Then perhaps we are not so incompatible after all. Before Vincent could respond, the music ended, and they were immediately surrounded by courtiers eager to offer congratulations. The moment of connection, brief as it was, vanished in the crush of the crowd. Later that evening, as Josephine prepared for bed, Eleanor helped unlace her gown. "The prince seemed quite taken with you during your dance," Eleanor observed. Josephine shook her head. "He was merely being polite." "I'm not so certain. Lord Pembroke overheard him asking Lady Thornfield about your interests and accomplishments after you retired to the ladies' withdrawing room." Josephine paused in the act of removing her earrings. "Did he? How odd." "Not odd at all, if he wishes to know more about his future wife. Or perhaps he merely seeks assurance that I won't embarrass him at court functions," Josephine countered, unwilling to nurture false hopes. Yet as she lay in bed that night, she found herself remembering the moment his polite mask had slipped, revealing a glimpse of a man who might, like her, desire more than a marriage of royal convenience. Vincent rose early the next morning, unable to sleep. The palace gardens beckoned, promising solitude for his troubled thoughts. The gardeners had not yet begun their day's work, and dew still clung to the roses and hedges as he walked the gravel paths. He rounded a corner and stopped abruptly. Princess Josephine sat on a stone bench beside the lily pond, a book open in her lap. She wore a simple morning dress of pale blue, her hair loosely braided rather than elaborately styled as it had been at the ball. In this unguarded moment, without the weight of ceremony, she looked younger, more vulnerable. Vincent considered retreating before she noticed him, but something held him in place. Perhaps it was curiosity about the woman he was to marry, or perhaps it was the peaceful expression on her face as she read. She sensed his presence and looked up, startled. "Your Highness." "Forgive me for disturbing you, Princess," he said, bowing slightly. "I did not expect anyone else to be abroad so early." "Nor I." She closed her book but kept her finger between the pages to mark her place. "I often read here before breakfast. The gardens are most tranquil at this hour." Vincent gestured to the bench. "May I join you?" She nodded, shifting slightly to make room. Vincent noted the title of her book, Principles of Political Economy. "Heavy reading for a morning in the garden," he observed. A blush colored her cheeks. "I find economics fascinating, though I'm told it's an unusual interest for a lady." "Not unusual, merely undervalued," Vincent replied. "My own mother served as economic advisor to my father until her death. She negotiated our kingdom's most profitable trade agreements." Josephine's eyes widened with interest. Indeed? My father has never permitted me such involvement, though I've studied extensively. He says financial matters are not the province of women. A foolish notion. Intelligence knows no gender. Vincent surprised himself with his vehemence. What other interests do you pursue, Princess? Their conversation flowed more easily than Vincent had expected. Josephine spoke passionately about agricultural innovations, literature, and music. He found himself sharing his own interests in maritime navigation and constitutional theory. An hour passed before either noticed the time. The household will be stirring, Josephine said reluctantly, rising from the bench. I should return before I'm missed. Of course. Vincent stood as well. Perhaps we might continue our discussion another time. She smiled, the first genuine smile he had seen from her. I would like that very much. As she walked away, Vincent realized he was smiling too. Princess Josephine was decidedly not dull as dishwater. Whether she was sharp as a viper remained to be seen, but her mind was certainly keen. Perhaps this arrangement would not be as tedious as he had feared. Over the next week, Josephine found herself seeking out Prince Vincent's company with increasing frequency. Their morning meetings in the garden became a tacit routine. She discovered he possessed a dry wit that matched her own and a breadth of knowledge that challenged her intellect. You disagree with Adam Smith's theories, he asked one morning, eyebrows raised in surprise as they debated economic philosophy. Not entirely, Josephine explained, but I believe his emphasis on self-interest overlooks the importance of community welfare. A truly prosperous kingdom must balance individual liberty with collective good. Vincent considered this. A progressive view. Would you implement such ideas if you had the authority? I doubt I shall ever have such authority, she said with a hint of bitterness. Queens consort are expected to produce heirs and patronize charities, not influence policy. That would be a waste of your considerable intellect, Vincent said quietly. In Ivyshire, royal consorts have traditionally held seats on the Privy Council. Josephine looked at him sharply. Are you suggesting? I am suggesting nothing, merely stating a fact, he said, though the intensity in his gaze suggested otherwise. The possibility that she might have a voice in governance after their marriage sent an unexpected thrill through her. Vincent continued to surprise her at every turn, defying her expectations of an arrogant, traditional prince. Later that afternoon, while taking tea with Eleanor in her chambers, Josephine found herself speaking of Vincent with animation. He has the most fascinating ideas about naval hospitals, she said, buttering a scone. He's implemented a system in Ivyshire requiring physicians to wash their hands between patients, which has dramatically reduced fevers among the sailors. Eleanor gave her a knowing smile. You speak of the prince with great enthusiasm. Josephine faltered. I merely appreciate his progressive thinking. And his handsome face and fine figure have nothing to do with your appreciation. Eleanor teased. Eleanor. Josephine felt heat rising in her cheeks. That is highly improper. It would be improper if he weren't your betrothed, Eleanor pointed out. But as he is to be your husband, I think it entirely appropriate that you should find him attractive. Josephine had indeed noticed the breadth of Vincent's shoulders, the elegant strength of his hands, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he laughed. But she had firmly pushed such observations aside, reminding herself that their marriage was a political arrangement, not a love match. Whether I find him attractive is immaterial, she said firmly. Ours is a marriage of convenience. Eleanor sighed. My dear, sometimes the most convenient marriages become the most passionate. My own parents barely knew each other when they wed, and now they can scarcely bear to be apart. Josephine changed the subject, unwilling to nurture hopes that would likely lead to disappointment. Yet that night, her dreams were filled with a pair of dark, intelligent eyes and the sound of deep laughter. The royal engagement celebrations continued with a fox hunt followed by a picnic on the palace grounds. Vincent found himself constantly searching the crowd for Josephine, drawn to her presence in a way that both pleased and unsettled him. He spotted her chatting with a group of ladies beneath an oak tree. She wore a riding habit of deep green that complemented her auburn hair, which was partially concealed by a jaunty hat. As if sensing his gaze, she looked up and their eyes met across the lawn. She gave a slight nod of acknowledgement before returning her attention to her companions. "You seem quite taken with your princess," observed Lord Grayson, a childhood friend who had travelled from Ivyshire for the celebrations. "She is to be my wife," Vincent replied neutrally. "It is natural I should pay her attention." Grayson laughed. "Come now, Vincent. I've known you since we were in leading strings. You look at her the way you once looked at star charts, as if she contains mysteries you're desperate to unravel." Vincent frowned. "You exaggerate. We have developed a cordial understanding, nothing more." "If you say so." Grayson's tone remained skeptical. "Though I must say, she seems a far cry from Lady Diana." Vincent stiffened at the mention of the woman he had once hoped to marry, before his father had arranged his betrothal to Princess Josephine. "That is in the past." "Is it?" "Lady Diana is here, you know. I saw her arrive with her parents." Vincent's head snapped up. "Here?" "At the picnic." "Indeed." "And looking quite determined to speak with you." Before Vincent could respond, he felt a light touch on his arm. He turned to find Lady Diana Rutherford smiling up at him, as beautiful as he remembered with her golden hair and porcelain complexion. "Your Highness," she curtsied deeply. "It has been too long." "Lady Diana," he acknowledged, bowing stiffly. "I was unaware you had been invited." "My father is Glencorra's ambassador to the French court," she explained. "We returned when we heard the news of your engagement." Her blue eyes held his. "I confess, I was surprised." Lord Grayson tactfully excused himself, leaving Vincent alone with the woman he had once thought to marry. "Walk with me?" Diana suggested, gesturing toward a nearby path that led into a small copse of trees. Against his better judgment, Vincent offered his arm. They strolled in silence until they were partially concealed by the foliage. "You never wrote to me," Diana said softly. "After you left London last spring." "It seemed pointless," Vincent replied. "My father had made his wishes clear regarding my marriage prospects." "And you always do as your father wishes." There was a challenge in her voice. "In matters of state, yes. Personal desires must yield to royal duty." Diana stepped closer, the scent of her perfume, roses and vanilla, bringing back memories of London ballrooms and stolen kisses in moonlit gardens. "What if you could have both duty and desire, Vincent?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" "My father's position has improved considerably. Our family's influence at the French court has made us valuable diplomatic assets. The king might view a match between us differently now." Her hand rested on his arm. "If you still want me." Vincent was saved from responding by the sound of approaching footsteps. He stepped back from Diana just as Princess Josephine appeared on the path, accompanied by her lady's companion. "Your Highness," Josephine said coolly, her eyes taking in the scene before her. "You are missed at the picnic." Vincent felt an inexplicable stab of guilt, though he had done nothing wrong. "Princess Josephine, allow me to present Lady Diana Rutherford, daughter of Glencorra's ambassador to France." "Lady Diana," Josephine acknowledged with perfect composure. "How lovely to meet you." "The pleasure is mine, Your Highness," Diana curtsied. "I was just reminiscing with Prince Vincent about our time in London society last season." Something flickered in Josephine's eyes, understanding, perhaps, or hurt. Vincent couldn't be sure. "I see," Josephine said. "Well, I would not wish to interrupt such pleasant reminiscences. However, my father is asking for you, Your Highness. The toast to our engagement is about to be made." "Of course," Vincent said. "If you'll excuse us, Lady Diana." As they walked back toward the picnic, Josephine maintained a careful distance between them. The easy companionship of their morning garden meetings was gone, replaced by rigid formality. "Lady Diana is very beautiful," Josephine finally said, her voice carefully neutral. "Yes," Vincent agreed, unable to deny the obvious. "You knew her well in London." Vincent hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. We moved in the same social circles. I see. Josephine's tone made it clear she understood there was more to the story, but she asked no further questions. As they rejoined the party, Vincent found himself unaccountably disturbed by the wall that had suddenly risen between them. He had no right to feel disappointed by Josephine's withdrawal. Their marriage was a political arrangement, after all. Yet as they stood side by side while the king toasted their future union, Vincent realized how much he had come to value their growing friendship and how reluctant he was to see it compromised. Lady Diana watched them from across the lawn, her expression calculating. Vincent had a sinking feeling that his past was about to complicate his future in ways he had not anticipated. Josephine spent the evening avoiding Prince Vincent, pleading a headache to escape dinner and retiring early to her chambers. She had known from the beginning that their marriage was one of political convenience, yet seeing him with the beautiful Lady Diana had provoked an unexpected ache in her chest. "Would you like me to read to you?" Eleanor asked, concern evident in her voice as Josephine sat by the fire in her dressing gown, staring into the flames. "No, thank you," Josephine replied. "I'm not in the mood for stories tonight." Eleanor hesitated. "May I speak frankly, Your Highness? When have you ever not? You're upset about the Prince and Lady Diana." Josephine sighed. "It is foolish of me. I have no claim on his affections." "Perhaps not yet," Eleanor said gently. "But I've seen how he looks at you when you're not watching. There is admiration there, and not merely for your status." "You are kind to say so, but I saw his face when he was with her." Josephine traced the embroidery on her dressing gown. "There is history between them." "History isn't destiny," Eleanor pointed out. "Otherwise, we'd all be doomed to repeat our ancestors' mistakes forever." A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Eleanor went to answer it, returning with a sealed note. "From Prince Vincent," she said, handing Josephine the folded paper. Josephine broke the seal with trembling fingers and read, Princess Josephine ***, I request the honor of your company tomorrow morning in the East Garden at our usual time. There are matters I wish to discuss that cannot wait. Yours respectfully Vincent **. Josephine folded the note carefully. "He wishes to meet tomorrow morning. Will you go?" Eleanor asked. "I must. It would be discourteous to refuse." She set the note on her dressing table. "Besides, I am curious what matters are so urgent they cannot wait. Perhaps an explanation about Lady Diana." "Perhaps." Josephine rose and moved to the window, gazing out at the moonlit gardens. "Or perhaps news that our engagement is to be broken in favor of a more advantageous match." Eleanor gasped. "Surely not. Diplomatic alliances change with the political winds, Eleanor. My father would be furious, but if Ivyshire found greater advantage elsewhere." She left the thought unfinished. That night, sleep eluded Josephine. She tossed and turned, her mind filled with images of Vincent and Diana together, laughing and dancing in London ballrooms, sharing secrets and stolen kisses. By dawn, she had resolved to face whatever news awaited her with dignity befitting a princess, even if it meant the end of a future she had only just begun to imagine. The East Garden was bathed in golden morning light as Josephine made her way along the gravel path. She had dressed with particular care in a gown of pale yellow muslin that complemented her complexion, her hair arranged in a simple but elegant style. Prince Vincent was already waiting by the fountain, his back straight and his hands clasped behind him. He turned at the sound of her approach, and Josephine was struck by the intensity in his gaze. "Princess," he bowed formally. "Thank you for coming." "Your note suggested urgency," she replied, keeping her voice even. "Is something amiss?" Vincent gestured to a nearby bench. "Please, sit with me. There are things I must tell you." Josephine's stomach tightened with apprehension, but she sat as requested, arranging her skirts with deliberate care. "I owe you an explanation about Lady Diana," Vincent began without preamble. "You owe me nothing, Your Highness," Josephine said quickly. "Our arrangement is political, not personal. Your prior attachments are your own affair." Vincent frowned. Is that truly how you see our match? As merely political? The question caught her off guard. Is that not how it was presented to both of us? Initially, yes. Vincent seemed to choose his words with care. But I had hoped that our conversations these past days might have suggested the possibility of something more. Josephine's heart quickened, but she maintained her composure. Something more. A partnership based on mutual respect and understanding. Perhaps even friendship. He paused. I value our discussions, Josephine. More than I expected to. The use of her given name without her title sent a small thrill through her. As do I, she admitted softly. Vincent nodded, seeming encouraged. Then I wish to be honest with you about Lady Diana. Last season in London, I believed myself in love with her. I had hopes of making her my wife. What happened? My father summoned me home and informed me of the proposed alliance with Glencorra. He made it clear that my personal preferences were irrelevant to matters of state. Vincent's expression darkened. I accepted my duty, as I have been trained to do since birth. And Lady Diana? I wrote to her explaining the situation, then left London immediately. I received no reply, and until yesterday, I had not seen her since. Josephine absorbed this information. She still has feelings for you. She believes the match could now be politically viable, given her father's improved standing. Vincent met Josephine's eyes directly. She has suggested I petition my father to reconsider our betrothal. The word struck like a physical blow, though Josephine had been braced for them. I see. And is that your intention? No. The word was firm, decisive. Whatever I felt for Diana belongs to the past. I have given my word to you and to our kingdoms. I will not break it. Relief washed through Josephine, followed swiftly by uncertainty. Is that the only reason? Your word. Vincent was silent for a long moment. No, he finally said. It is not the only reason. He reached out slowly, as if giving her time to withdraw, and took her hand in his. I find myself increasingly drawn to you, Josephine. Your intelligence, your principles, your quiet strength, they command my admiration in ways I had not anticipated. Josephine's breath caught. I am not sure what to say. You need say nothing. Vincent's thumb traced small circles on the back of her hand. I merely wished you to know the truth of the situation. I have no intention of pursuing Lady Diana or any other attachment. My future lies with you, if you will have me, not merely as a political necessity, but as a man who grows to admire the woman he will marry. Josephine found herself at a rare loss for words. The vulnerability in Vincent's expression moved her deeply. This was not the cold, diplomatic prince she had expected, but a man of honor and surprising sensitivity. I too have found our acquaintance unexpectedly rewarding, she admitted. I had resigned myself to a marriage of duty, but perhaps duty and happiness need not be mutually exclusive. Vincent suggested, a smile tugging at his lips. Perhaps not, Josephine agreed, returning his smile. A comfortable silence fell between them, their hands still joined, until the distant sound of the palace clock reminded them of the day's obligations. We should return, Josephine said reluctantly. The diplomatic reception begins at noon. Vincent stood, offering his arm. May I escort you back to the palace? As they walked, Josephine felt a new lightness in her step. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time since her father had announced her betrothal, she found herself looking forward to it with something approaching hope. The weeks leading to the wedding passed in a whirl of diplomatic functions, wedding preparations, and stolen moments of privacy. Vincent and Josephine established a pattern of morning walks and evening chess games, their conversations ranging from philosophy to childhood memories to hopes for their shared future. Yet Josephine could not help noticing Lady Diana's continued presence at court functions, always beautifully attired, always watching Vincent with undisguised longing. Though Vincent remained politely distant with Diana, her persistence created an undercurrent of tension that Josephine found increasingly difficult to ignore. She will be at the wedding, I suppose, Josephine remarked one evening as she and Vincent played chess in the palace library. Vincent moved his knight, capturing her bishop. Lady Diana? I imagine so, given her father's position. Does it not trouble you? Her obvious attachment. Vincent looked up from the board, his expression serious. Does it trouble you? Josephine hesitated. I dislike being the obstacle to someone else's happiness. You are not an obstacle, Josephine. The decision to honor our betrothal is mine, made freely and with increasing certainty. His gaze held hers. I would choose you now even if the political necessity were removed. The declaration, simple yet profound, warmed her to her core. Truly? Truly? Vincent reached across the chessboard to take her hand. In fact, I find myself, the library door opened, interrupting whatever he had been about to say. King William entered, followed by several advisers. Ah, there you are, the king said. Forgive the intrusion, but there is a matter requiring immediate attention. Vincent rose, bowing to the king. Of course, your majesty. A dispatch has arrived from Ivyshire, the king explained. Your father requests your immediate return. Josephine felt a chill of foreboding. Return? But the wedding is in less than a fortnight. The king's expression was grave. There has been an incident with the French fleet near Ivyshire's southern border. Several naval vessels exchanged fire. Your father needs you to take command of the response while he handles the diplomatic negotiations. Vincent's face hardened into the mask of a prince rather than the man Josephine had come to know. When must I depart? Tonight, if possible. A ship awaits at the harbor. Tonight. Josephine could not keep the dismay from her voice. Vincent turned to her, his eyes apologetic. I must go, Josephine. My kingdom needs me. Of course, she said automatically, though her heart ached. Duty must come first. The king cleared his throat. In light of these developments, the wedding may need to be postponed until the situation is resolved. Postponed. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Naval conflicts could take weeks or months to resolve. By then, the political landscape might have shifted entirely. I understand, Vincent said formally. Princess Josephine and I will adapt to whatever circumstances require. Within the hour, Vincent was making preparations to depart. Josephine watched from her chamber window as servants loaded his trunks into carriages bound for the harbor. She had not had a moment alone with him since the king's interruption, and now it seemed he would leave without a proper farewell. A knock at her door startled her. Eleanor entered, slightly breathless. The prince requests a moment of your time in the West Gallery, she said. He says it is urgent. Josephine hurried through the palace corridors, her heart pounding. The West Gallery was empty save for Vincent, who stood before a portrait of Josephine's mother, Queen Catherine. Vincent, she said as she approached. He turned, and the naked emotion in his face took her breath away. In 3 strides he was before her, taking her hands in his. Forgive me for this abrupt departure, he said, his voice low and intense. It is not how I wish to leave you. There is nothing to forgive. Your kingdom needs you. As does yours. Vincent's grip tightened. Josephine, I must ask something of you before I go. Anything. Wait for me. His eyes searched hers. No matter what you may hear, no matter how long this conflict may last, promise me you will not lose faith in our future. Josephine frowned. You speak as if you expect opposition to our match. Politics are unpredictable, especially in times of conflict. There may be those who seek to use my absence to their advantage. His jaw tightened. Lady Diana among them. I have given my word to this alliance, Josephine assured him. I will not break it. Vincent stepped closer, one hand rising to cup her cheek. Is it only the alliance that holds you, Josephine? Or is there something more between us now? The directness of his question demanded equal honesty. There is more, Vincent. Much more. Something like relief crossed his features. Then I go with hope in my heart. He hesitated, then bent and pressed his lips to hers in a brief, tender kiss. Until we meet again, my princess. Before Josephine could respond, he was gone, leaving her standing alone in the gallery with the ghost of his kiss still warming her lips and a growing fear that forces beyond their control might yet tear them apart. 2 weeks passed with no news from Vincent beyond a brief note announcing his safe arrival in Ivyshire. The wedding was officially postponed, with no new date set. Josephine maintained a brave face in public, but in private, she wrestled with anxiety and doubt. The latest dispatches suggest the naval confrontation has escalated, Eleanor reported one morning as she helped Josephine dress. There's talk of a full blockade of the French ports. Which means Vincent will not return anytime soon, Josephine concluded, trying to keep the dejection from her voice. I'm afraid not. But there is other news you should know. Eleanor hesitated. Lady Diana has been telling anyone who will listen that she received a private letter from Prince Vincent, expressing regret over your betrothal and hinting at his continued attachment to her. Josephine's hand stilled in the act of fastening a necklace. That is a bold claim. Bold but effective. Several courtiers are already speculating that the naval conflict might provide a convenient excuse to dissolve your engagement without losing face. And my father? What does he say? Eleanor looked uncomfortable. He has been in closed meetings with the French ambassador for the past 2 days. A cold knot formed in Josephine's stomach. France was a far more powerful ally than Ivyshire. If her father was considering a strategic realignment. I must speak with him, Josephine decided, abandoning her toilette to hurry to the king's study. She found her father bent over maps with his advisors, his face grave. Father, may I have a word, she requested. The king nodded, dismissing his men. Once they were alone, Josephine came straight to the point. I've heard rumors that you are reconsidering the alliance with Ivyshire in favor of France. The king sighed, suddenly looking older. News travels quickly in this palace. Is it true? The situation is complex, Josephine. The French are offering generous trade terms and military protection in exchange for certain concessions. What concessions? Josephine pressed, though she feared she already knew. A marriage alliance would cement the agreement most effectively. The Duc de Valmorne has a son of suitable age, no. The word was out before Josephine could stop it. The king's eyebrows rose. No. Forgive me, father, but I am betrothed to Prince Vincent. I have given my word. Words can be withdrawn when circumstances change, the king said, not unkindly. The alliance with Ivyshire made sense when we arranged it, but with this naval conflict. France offers greater security now. And what of my happiness? Josephine asked quietly. Her father looked genuinely surprised. Your happiness? I thought you viewed this marriage as a duty, same as I. I did, initially. Josephine took a deep breath. But I have come to know Vincent as more than a political asset. He is honorable, intelligent, and kind. I believe we could build a good life together. The king studied her with new awareness. You care for him? I do. And these rumors about his continuing attachment to Lady Diana. Josephine lifted her chin. Fabrications designed to undermine our betrothal. Vincent would not write such things. The king was silent for a long moment. You seem very certain of his character after such a brief acquaintance. Sometimes a few weeks can reveal more than years of formal interaction, Josephine replied. I trust him, father. And I ask that you trust my judgment in this matter. Something in her father's expression softened. You remind me of your mother, stubborn when you believe yourself right. He sighed heavily. Very well. I will not make any decisions regarding the French proposal until we have more information about the naval situation. But Josephine, if the conflict worsens? I understand, father. She curtsied, knowing she had won only a temporary reprieve. Thank you. As she left the study, Josephine knew she needed to act quickly. If Lady Diana was spreading falsehoods about Vincent, those lies needed to be countered. And if the king was wavering in his commitment to the Ivyshire alliance, she needed proof that Vincent remained equally committed. She needed to write to Vincent directly, not through diplomatic channels that could be intercepted or manipulated, but through a trustworthy private courier. Eleanor, as always, proved invaluable. My cousin serves on a merchant vessel that makes regular trips to Ivyshire, she offered when Josephine explained her plan. He could deliver your letter directly to the prince without official knowledge. That would be perfect, Josephine said gratefully. The letter must reach him within the week if possible. That night, Josephine sat at her writing desk long after the palace had gone quiet, carefully crafting her message to Vincent. She needed to warn him about Lady Diana's claims and her father's discussions with the French, but she also needed to convey her own unwavering commitment to their future together. My dear Vincent, I write to you not as a princess to a prince, but as a woman to the man she has come to admire above all others. Circumstances here grow complicated in your absence. Lady Diana claims to have received correspondence from you expressing regret over our betrothal. While I do not believe her claims, they have sown doubt among the court. More worryingly, my father has begun discussions with the French ambassador regarding a possible alliance, one that would include a marriage between myself and the son of the Duc de Valmorne. I have expressed my opposition to this plan, but if the naval conflict continues, diplomatic pressures may overwhelm personal preferences. I tell you this not to alarm you, but because I believe honesty must be the foundation of any lasting relationship. I remain steadfast in my commitment to you and to the future we have begun to envision together. Please, if you can, send word of your own intentions. A simple reassurance from you would strengthen my position considerably. Until then, I remain faithfully yours. Josephine. She sealed the letter with her personal signet rather than the royal seal and gave it to Eleanor the following morning. As Eleanor hurried away to find her cousin, Josephine could only hope the letter would reach Vincent in time, and that his response would give her the ammunition she needed to fight for their future. The naval headquarters of Ivyshire buzzed with activity as officers rushed between war rooms and dispatch offices. Vincent had barely slept in the 3 days since receiving intelligence that France planned to expand the blockade to include all Ivyshire ports, effectively strangling the small kingdom's trade. The diplomatic corps requests your presence at the embassy, Your Highness, his aide reported, handing him yet another stack of dispatches. The French ambassador has a new proposal. Vincent rubbed his eyes wearily. Tell them I'll be there within the hour. I need to finish these deployment orders first. Yes, sir. Oh, and there's a merchant sailor waiting in the antechamber. Says he has a private message for you from Glencorra. Vincent's head snapped up. From Princess Josephine. He didn't say, sir. Only that it was urgent and for your eyes only. Send him in immediately. The sailor who entered was young but weathered, with the confident bearing of an experienced seaman. He bowed awkwardly. Your Highness. I bring this from Her Highness Princess Josephine. My cousin serves in her household and asked me to deliver it directly to you. Vincent took the sealed letter, his heart racing. When did you leave Glencorra? 3 days ago, sir. Made good time with the winds in our favor. Thank you for your service. Vincent pressed a gold coin into the man's palm. Wait outside. I may have a reply. Alone, Vincent broke the seal and devoured Josephine's words. With each line, his concern deepened. Lady Diana's machinations were troubling but not unexpected. The French proposal, however, represented a serious threat to both his personal happiness and Ivyshire's strategic position. If Glencorra aligned with France rather than Ivyshire, his kingdom would be diplomatically isolated in the current conflict. The military consequences could be devastating. Vincent paced the room, Josephine's letter clutched in his hand. The situation demanded an immediate response, but what could he offer? The naval conflict showed no signs of resolution. His father, King Edward, refused to yield to French demands regarding fishing rights in disputed waters. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. His father's private secretary entered, looking grave. Forgive the intrusion, Your Highness, but the king has summoned you to an emergency council meeting. The French have seized 2 of our merchant vessels. Vincent swore under his breath. I'll be there directly. Left alone again, he made a swift decision. Taking a fresh sheet of paper, he penned a response to Josephine, my dearest Josephine, your letter arrives at a critical moment. The conflict with France escalates daily, and I fear peaceful resolution grows more distant rather than nearer. Lady Diana's claims are utterly false. I have written her no personal correspondence since leaving London last season. Whatever letter she purports to have received is a fabrication designed to serve her ambitions. As for the French alliance your father contemplates, I understand his position. A king must protect his kingdom above all else. But I implore you to ask him to delay any decision until you receive the diplomatic packet that will accompany this personal note. Ivyshire is preparing to offer Glencorra extraordinary concessions in exchange for maintaining our alliance during this conflict. My father has authorized me to propose shared jurisdiction over the Silver Strait shipping lanes and preferential access to our eastern colonies' markets, terms we have never before extended to any nation. These official proposals will follow through proper diplomatic channels, but I wanted you to know of them first, that you might prepare your father to receive them favorably. On a more personal note, know that my feelings for you have only strengthened in our separation. What began as duty has transformed into something I cherish beyond measure. The thought of you sustains me through these difficult days. If circumstances allow, I hope to return to Glencorra within the month to properly renew our betrothal and set a firm wedding date. Until then, trust that I remain yours in both duty and affection. Vincent. He sealed the letter, then penned a quick note to his father explaining his diplomatic initiative. The king would likely be displeased that Vincent had acted without prior consultation, but the urgency of the situation demanded bold action. Vincent handed both letters to his aide. Have this personal note delivered to the merchant sailor waiting outside. See that he is well compensated for his trouble. And have this note delivered to my father immediately after the council meeting. Yes, Your Highness. As his aide hurried away, Vincent squared his shoulders and prepared to face the council. The next few weeks would determine not only the fate of 2 kingdoms but also his chance at a future with the woman who had unexpectedly captured his heart. The tension in Glencorra's palace was palpable as Josephine entered the council chamber. Her father had summoned her unexpectedly, and the grave expressions of his advisers suggested momentous decisions were imminent. Josephine, the king said, gesturing her forward. We have received a diplomatic packet from Ivyshire. Most interesting contents. Josephine's pulse quickened. It had been 5 days since she'd dispatched her letter to Vincent. What does it contain, father? Extraordinary concessions. The king tapped a document bearing the royal seal of Ivyshire. Shared jurisdiction of the Silver Strait. Preferential trade terms. Naval protection of our merchant fleet. He raised an eyebrow. Terms so generous they border on the suspicious. Suspicious? How so? Such generosity suggests desperation, interjected Lord Pembroke, the king's chief adviser. Ivyshire must be in a weaker position against France than we realized. Or, Josephine countered, it suggests the value they place on our alliance. The king studied her thoughtfully. You seem unsurprised by these proposals. Josephine chose her words carefully. I am not surprised that Ivyshire recognizes Glencorra's strategic importance. Indeed. The king exchanged glances with Lord Pembroke. Curiously, Prince Vincent has included a personal note requesting that we postpone any decision regarding the French proposal until he can return to Glencorra himself. He estimates his arrival within the month. Hope surged in Josephine's chest. Vincent was coming back. That seems a reasonable request, given the significance of the alliance. The French will not wait a month, Lord Pembroke argued. Their offer expires at week's end. Let it expire, Josephine said firmly. France seeks to pressure us because they fear an Ivyshire-Glencorra alliance. That fear gives us leverage. The king leaned back in his chair, regarding his daughter with new respect. You speak like a diplomat rather than a bride-to-be. I am both, father. And in this case, my personal interests align perfectly with Glencorra's diplomatic advantage. A hint of a smile crossed the king's face. You've grown bold in recent weeks, Josephine. I've grown certain, she corrected. Certain of what will best serve our kingdom and my happiness. After a thoughtful pause, the king nodded. Very well. We will delay our response to the French and consider Ivyshire's proposals in full. Lord Pembroke, draft a diplomatic acknowledgement informing Prince Vincent that we await his return for further negotiations. Relief washed through Josephine. She had won a reprieve, but the battle was far from over. Lady Diana remained at court, still whispering her falsehoods to anyone who would listen. The French ambassador continued his campaign of persuasion. And Vincent's return, though promised, was not yet certain. As she left the council chamber, Josephine nearly collided with Lady Diana in the corridor. Your Highness, Diana curtsied with perfect form but cold eyes. I trust the council meeting went well. Quite well, thank you, Josephine replied neutrally. I understand Prince Vincent may soon return to us, Diana continued. How fortunate for you. For Glencorra and Ivyshire both, Josephine corrected. Our kingdoms stand stronger together. Diana's smile didn't reach her eyes. Indeed. Though alliances, like betrothals, can be broken when better opportunities arise. True loyalty, however, withstands both distance and temptation, Josephine countered. Good day, Lady Diana. As Josephine walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that Lady Diana was not yet done with her schemes. The woman had too much invested in becoming Ivyshire's princess to surrender without a final effort. That evening, as Josephine sat in her chambers reviewing the details of Ivyshire's proposals, Eleanor burst in without knocking, her face flushed with excitement. A ship flying Ivyshire's colours has been spotted approaching the harbour, she exclaimed. The harbour-master sent word to the palace immediately. Josephine rose, her heart pounding. Vincent? Already? The messenger didn't say who was aboard, only that it was a royal vessel. Eleanor hurried to the wardrobe. What will you wear? He could be at the palace within hours. Josephine hesitated. It's too soon. His letter said within the month, not within the week. Perhaps he found a faster resolution to the naval conflict than expected. Perhaps. But doubt nagged at her. Something felt wrong about this sudden arrival. A knock at the door revealed one of the king's pages. Your Highness, the king requests your immediate presence in the grand reception hall. A special envoy from Ivyshire has arrived with urgent news. Josephine and Eleanor exchanged glances. Not Vincent himself, then, Eleanor murmured. We shall see, Josephine replied, smoothing her gown. Tell my father I come directly. The grand reception hall buzzed with whispers as Josephine entered. Her father stood near his throne, deep in conversation with a tall man in Ivyshire's diplomatic uniform. The man turned as Josephine approached, and she recognized Lord Grayson, Vincent's childhood friend. Princess Josephine, he bowed deeply. An honor to see you again. Lord Grayson, she acknowledged. You bring news from Ivyshire. Indeed, Your Highness. Most urgent news. He glanced at the king, who nodded permission for him to continue. I regret to inform you that Prince Vincent has been injured in a naval engagement with the French. The room seemed to tilt beneath Josephine's feet. Injured? How severely? A French cannonball struck his ship during a confrontation near the Serpent Islands. The prince suffered a serious head wound and has been unconscious for several days. Is he? Josephine could barely form the question. Will he recover? Lord Grayson's expression was grave. The royal physicians are doing all they can, but his condition remains uncertain. King Edward sent me immediately to inform you and King William of the situation and to discuss how this might affect our diplomatic negotiations. Josephine barely heard the political implications. Vincent was injured, perhaps mortally. Nothing else seemed to matter. I wish to go to him, she said suddenly. The king stared at her in shock. Josephine! Father, if Vincent is gravely injured, my place is at his side. Our kingdoms are to be united. What message would it send if I remained distant in his hour of need? It would send the message that you are a princess of Glencorra first, and a betrothed second, the king replied sternly. Your duty is here. My duty is to both kingdoms now, Josephine insisted. And to the man who will be my husband. Lord Grayson cleared his throat. If I might suggest a compromise? Princess Josephine could travel to Ivyshire as part of an official diplomatic delegation. It would demonstrate Glencorra's commitment to the alliance while allowing Her Highness to attend Prince Vincent. The king hesitated, clearly torn between diplomatic protocol and his daughter's evident distress. Please, father, Josephine said softly. I must go to him. After a long moment, the king nodded. Very well. Lord Pembroke will accompany you as my official representative. You will depart tomorrow on Lord Grayson's ship. Thank you, father. Josephine curtsied deeply, blinking back tears of relief and worry. As the court dispersed to prepare for the unexpected diplomatic mission, Lady Diana appeared at Josephine's elbow. How tragic for Prince Vincent, she said, her voice syrupy with false sympathy. And how convenient that you now have reason to rush to his bedside, reinforcing your claim to his hand. Josephine turned cold eyes upon her rival. I go to him because I care for him, Lady Diana. A concept you might find foreign, given your clear preference for strategy over sentiment. We shall see whose attachment proves stronger in the end, Diana replied with a confident smile. Safe journey, Your Highness. As Diana sauntered away, Eleanor hurried to Josephine's side. Pay her no mind. She's merely jealous that the king has granted you permission to go to Vincent. There was something in her manner. Josephine frowned. She seemed almost pleased about Vincent's injury. Surely even she wouldn't go that far, Eleanor said, though she looked uncertain. I don't know what to believe anymore, Josephine admitted. But I will discover the truth in Ivyshire, about Vincent's condition and about whatever game Lady Diana is playing. That night, as she packed for the journey, Josephine found herself praying for the first time since childhood, praying that she would reach Vincent in time, that he would recover, and that whatever obstacles still stood between them could be overcome with the same courage and determination that had brought them this far. The voyage to Ivyshire took 3 days of rough seas and anxious waiting. When the royal palace finally came into view, a magnificent structure of pale stone perched on cliffs overlooking the harbour, Josephine felt both relief and trepidation. Lord Grayson escorted her and the small Glencorran delegation to the palace, where they were met by solemn-faced courtiers who led them to an ornate reception room. King Edward will receive you shortly, the chamberlain informed them. He is currently with the prince's physicians. Josephine's heart clenched. How is His Highness? Has there been any change? The chamberlain's expression revealed nothing. I am not at liberty to discuss the prince's condition, Your Highness. The king will provide all necessary information. The minutes crawled by as they waited. Josephine paced the length of the room, unable to sit still, while Lord Pembroke engaged in quiet conversation with Grayson about the naval situation. Finally, the doors opened, and King Edward entered. He was a tall, imposing figure with the same dark eyes as his son, though his hair had gone silver. His face bore the lines of recent worry. Princess Josephine, he bowed slightly. Welcome to Ivyshire. I apologize for the circumstances of your visit. Josephine curtsied deeply. Your Majesty. How is Prince Vincent? A flicker of surprise crossed the king's face at her direct question. He regained consciousness yesterday. The physicians are cautiously optimistic about his recovery, though he remains weak. Relief made Josephine's knees tremble. May I see him? Again, surprise. You wish to attend him personally? That is not necessary. We have excellent physicians and nurses. With respect, Your Majesty, it is necessary to me, Josephine said firmly. Prince Vincent and I have formed a bond that transcends our political arrangement. I would be at his side, if he will receive me. King Edward studied her with new interest. I see. Vincent said something similar before his injury. I confess I dismissed it as youthful sentimentality, but perhaps I was hasty in my judgment. He nodded. Very well. I will have you shown to his chambers after you have rested from your journey. Thank you, Your Majesty, but I require no rest. I would go to him now, if possible. For the first time, a hint of approval showed in the king's expression. As you wish. Lord Grayson will escort you. Lord Pembroke, perhaps you would join me to discuss the diplomatic implications of recent events. As the men departed to conduct their business, Grayson led Josephine through the palace's grand corridors to the royal apartments. Outside an imposing oak door stood 2 guards and a physician. Her Royal Highness Princess Josephine of Glencorra, Grayson announced. To see Prince Vincent. The physician stepped forward. Your Highness, I must caution you. The prince is still very weak. He should not be excited or disturbed. I understand, Josephine assured him. I will be careful. The physician nodded reluctantly and opened the door. 15 minutes only, for now. Josephine entered the dimly lit bedchamber, her heart in her throat. Vincent lay propped against pillows in a massive 4-poster bed, his head bandaged, his face pale but his eyes, thank God, open and alert. Those eyes widened at the sight of her. Josephine. His voice was hoarse but unmistakably his. Am I dreaming? No dream, she said softly, moving to his bedside. I came as soon as I heard of your injury. You crossed the sea for me. Wonder filled his face. I would have crossed oceans, she admitted, taking his hand. How do you feel? Like I've been kicked in the head by a particularly vindictive horse, he replied with a shadow of his usual dry humor. But significantly better now that you're here. He squeezed her hand weakly. I didn't expect, that is, I hoped but didn't dare believe you would come. Did you think I would abandon you at the first sign of adversity? What kind of queen would that make me? A smile touched his lips. A sensible one, perhaps. Allying with an injured prince whose kingdom is at war might not be the wisest political move. Perhaps I am not guided solely by political wisdom anymore, Josephine said, her voice soft but certain. Perhaps my heart has developed a rather inconvenient habit of overruling my head where you are concerned. Vincent's eyes searched hers. Josephine, are you saying? The door opened, and the physician reappeared. Your Highness, I must insist the prince rest now. Josephine nodded reluctantly. Of course. I will return later, if permitted. Please do, Vincent said, not releasing her hand. We have much to discuss. As Josephine rose to leave, Vincent tugged her hand gently, drawing her back. Josephine, he whispered, thank you for coming. It means more than I can express. She squeezed his hand once more before departing, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks despite the gravity of the situation. Vincent was alive. He would recover. And the look in his eyes when he saw her had confirmed what her heart already knew, their connection had grown into something neither duty nor distance could diminish. Over the next week, Josephine divided her time between Vincent's sick room and the diplomatic meetings where Glencorra and Ivyshire hammered out the details of their strengthened alliance. With each passing day, Vincent grew stronger, and the terms of the alliance more favorable to both kingdoms. France, facing the united front of Ivyshire and Glencorra, began to moderate its aggressive naval posture. Peace negotiations commenced, brokered by neutral parties. On the 7th day of her stay, Vincent was well enough to sit in a chair near the window of his chambers, sunshine bathing his face as Josephine read to him from a volume of poetry. Enough Wordsworth for one day, he said finally. I'd rather hear about the treaty negotiations. Josephine set the book aside. Your father and Lord Pembroke believe they've reached terms acceptable to both kingdoms. Glencorra will receive protection from Ivyshire's navy and favorable trade status. In return, we will provide agricultural support and diplomatic backing in the peace talks with France. And our marriage? It remains a cornerstone of the alliance. It does. Josephine hesitated. Though if you wish to reconsider, given your injury and all that has happened, reconsider." Vincent looked alarmed. "Is that what you want?" "No," Josephine said quickly. "But I would understand if your perspective had changed." Vincent reached for her hand, his grip now much stronger than when she had first arrived. "The only change in my perspective is that I now know with absolute certainty what I merely hoped before." "And what is that?" "That our marriage of convenience has become the most inconvenient thing possible, a love match." Josephine's breath caught. "Vincent?" "I love you, Josephine," he said simply. "I think I began falling in love with you that morning in the garden when you were reading economics and challenging my assumptions. By the time I left Glencorra, I knew my heart was yours, though I dared not speak of it then." Tears welled in Josephine's eyes. "I love you too. I realized it when I heard you were injured. The thought of losing you was unbearable." Vincent raised her hand to his lips. "Then let us waste no more time. Marry me, Josephine, not for our kingdoms, but for ourselves." "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Their kiss, when it came, was gentle but filled with promise, the promise of a future built on both duty and love, on mutual respect and growing passion. A knock at the door interrupted them. King Edward entered, followed by Lord Pembroke and, to Josephine's surprise, her own father. "Father," she exclaimed, rising quickly. "When did you arrive?" "This morning," King William replied, his eyes taking in the scene before him with knowing amusement. "I came to witness the treaty signing myself, and to see how my daughter fared in foreign lands." "She has fared exceptionally well," King Edward said. "Your Josephine has proven herself both diplomatically skilled and personally steadfast. Ivyshire will be fortunate to claim her as its princess. And Glencorra will be fortunate to have Prince Vincent as a son of our kingdom," King William replied. "If he will still have us, after all the diplomatic complications we've endured." "I will gladly claim Glencorra as my second home," Vincent assured him, "as I have already claimed its princess for my heart." King William's eyebrows rose at this unabashedly romantic declaration. "I see the rumors of mutual affection were not exaggerated." "Not in the slightest, father," Josephine confirmed. "What began as a political arrangement has become a personal joy." The two kings exchanged glances of satisfaction. "Then let us proceed with the wedding as soon as the prince is sufficiently recovered," King William proposed. "Our kingdoms have waited long enough for this union." "And so have we," Vincent added, taking Josephine's hand once more. The wedding took place 1 month later in the Grand Cathedral of Ivyshire's capital, with dignitaries from across Europe in attendance. Even France sent representatives, the naval conflict having been resolved through the treaty Glencorra and Ivyshire had forged. As Josephine walked down the aisle toward Vincent, radiant in a gown of ivory silk and Glencorran lace, she caught sight of Lady Diana in the congregation. The woman's face was composed into a mask of polite interest, but Josephine detected the bitterness beneath. Later, at the wedding banquet, Diana approached the high table where the newlyweds sat today. "Your Royal Highnesses," she curtsied deeply. "May I offer my congratulations on your union?" "Thank you, Lady Diana," Vincent replied with perfect courtesy but cool reserve. "I confess I once hoped for a different outcome," Diana said, her voice lowered for their ears alone. "But seeing you together, it's clear Providence had other plans." Josephine regarded her thoughtfully. "Life rarely follows the path we initially envision, Lady Diana. Sometimes what seems like disappointment leads to greater happiness elsewhere." A shadow of genuine emotion crossed Diana's face. "Perhaps you're right, Your Highness. I wish you both joy." With another curtsy, she withdrew. "Do you think she meant it?" Vincent asked, watching Diana disappear into the crowd. "Perhaps, in part," Josephine replied. "Time will tell if she finds her own happiness." Vincent turned to his new wife with a smile that made her heart flutter. "As we have found ours." "Indeed," Josephine agreed, returning his smile. "Though not in the way either of us expected when our betrothal was first announced." "The best journeys are often those we never planned to take," Vincent said, raising her hand to his lips. And this is only the beginning of ours. As the celebration continued around them, Josephine reflected on the strange path that had led her to this moment. What had begun as a political obligation, a marriage arranged for the convenience of kingdoms, had transformed into the deepest bond she had ever known. In seeking to fulfill her duty, she had unexpectedly found her heart's desire, a love as strong as it was surprising, and all the more precious for being entirely unforeseen.